Alright, what is going on YouTube? Another series from the round of 64 of Hidden Cup 4. SongSong versus AngelinaJolie. AJ, potentially the best Dutch player out there, whereas SongSong is a very underrated Vietnamese player. Mostly plays team games, and he's an absolute beast in Nomad. Not so sure what he can do in 1v1, but here are the civilizations. Mongols and Aztecs are the global bands. Franks, Indians, Italians, Berbers, Byzantines, Celts will be available for SongSong, and Huns are sniped. Tatars, Lithuanians, Britons, Cumans, Khmer, and Vikings are AngelinaJolie's home maps, civilizations, and Mayans were sniped by the opponent. The home maps are Bay and Slopes for AJ, and Gold Rush and Hideout for SongSong. With that being said, I think we are more than ready to jump into the first game over here. We'll have SongSong playing as a very surprising Byzantine Civ selection over here. Something that I definitely did not expect, to be honest. Like, that was so weird. Now, not sure what this actually says. They had some issues setting up the lobby. You might have not seen the lobby chat, but they apparently had some issues setting it up. So that's probably what you have seen in terms of chatter, but I can assure you this is the first game, and what you have seen over there is nothing relevant or result of this one. There was a lot of chatter between the two about this game. Anyways, we'll have a Vikings versus Byzantine setup, and honestly, this is a very tricky setup. Basically, the two civs play out very similarly. It's about both of them about the Imperial Age power spike, but they achieve that different ways. Vikings overall have a strong eco, whereas Byzantines get the cheaper Imperial Age as an exchange. So the two civs are very similar, but I feel like there's a little bit more versatility involved in Byzantines, as apparently AJ is struggling with a deer push over here in the starting moments of this game. But I think this is going to be the one and only time where we're going to see Byzantines being used on Arabia. It's really unconventional. Overall, Byzantines in 1v1 is pretty rare. Sometimes seen on islands or hybrid maps, as we do have an attempted lame over here by SongSong. The board de-aggroes, and that means that SongSong isn't able to steal any boards from his opponent. That was a pretty late lame attempt, to be honest. So he took his time, scouted his base, and he's going for some very early wars now. Makes me wonder if he's afraid of a rush, and now we'll just focus on pushing in there with the weaker scout that he has. But he decided that he wants to lame, and ended up being unsuccessful. So let's take a look at the base of SongSong. He's got berries on the front. Food lines aren't great. These wars are good, but this gold mine is something I really dislike over here for SongSong, who seems like he's coming forward, which will prompt me to slow down the game. Bumps into a bear, and this is one of the things that I could have thought about when it comes to Byzantines. Towers are absolutely possible, and what we are going to see over here is a spear and skirm tower play, something that's actually pretty standard for Byzantines. It looks like the response will be a men-at-arms play from AngelinaJolie, and I think that I like that a lot. So the men-at-arms are pretty much eating the spears, eating the skirms, especially Viking men-at-arms that even have the extra HP on them. So I think that AJ knows that something like that is going to come. The thing is that Byzantines are so unconventional on a map like Arabia that you probably expect something to come, and I believe that AJ already sees the range. Indeed, he knows exactly it's spear and skirm forward from Byzantines. SongSong is making sure that he's not getting counterattacked. He's investing a lot into his walls, but I think in this case that's fine. Like, you could really make a case just saying, okay, it's better to not lose Voyagers to potential counterattack. You could play open and just say, okay, whatever, I'm not willing to invest all those resources into my walls. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's safer to play it this way, so he went for some early walls. And he pops up one archer at the beginning, but that's all he can afford. He's not going to have more gold for this. So AJ is going to react to this one with 4 men-at-arms. I think from this point on, he just needs to kind of match the skirm numbers, and he should be perfectly fine. So men-at-arms defense here with skirms should be fine. Remember that he's going to have a way better economy than the Byzantine player will be having. So in terms of map, I think AngelinaJolie has a pretty decent map over here. Has a nice woodland at the back. The gold is nice. This is a little bit ambitious of evolving from him, but if he actually does this revol behind, then it's going to be perfectly fine. Now unpops this Man-at-Arms here, and indeed SongSong is going to have nowhere to go, and the skirms won't even be killing the Man-at-Arms over here. And the thing is that I think that AngelinaJolie expected this opening, and he reacted to that one very well. In fact, he went for 5 Men-at-Arms. He could easily be fighting this one. Men-at-Arms absolutely just devastate a spear and skirm forward. Especially Viking Men-at-Arms. As I said, these guys have 50 HP. You even have a skirmisher being pulled in here. I think the reason why AJ is retreating a little bit is because he's a little bit concerned about that archer picking up the Men-at-Arms, and truth being told, the numbers advantage is on the side of AJ here. So I would think that what Vikings, or numbers advantage on the SongSong side, what am I talking about? And indeed, what AJ has to do is keep adding Men-at-Arms and keep adding skirmishers to this one. This is also a very, very nice reroll. I like the stone wall addition here as well, just to make sure these guys don't get through his walls. He could also pick that scout off. It's 1 HP. Indeed, that will also happen. And SongSong's push seems like it's actually going to stall out. So I don't know much about SongSong as a 1v1 player. That's the thing. So I don't know if this is something that he often does. I know that he plays a lot of Nomad team games, and overall he's a very, very beastly player in Nomad. Like, he's one of the top Nomad players out there, but I'm not really aware of what his 1v1 playstyle look like or so. In fact, I'm not even sure who is the higher seed in this one. Like, I can imagine either of these players being the higher seed. AJ is more of the conventional player that plays a lot of 1v1s. I would compare AngelinaJolie to Project Belgium. He's a very, very similar player in style. So standard gameplay, nothing flashy, but very consistent and high-level player. That's basically what AJ is, just like Project Belgium. A player that isn't really going to shine in anything, but he's not particularly bad at anything either. So it's a very, very well-balanced player overall. The skirms here from SongSong need to focus down the skirms of AJ, because those skirms would actually be able to deny that tower. AJ pulls a lot of Voyagers to get that tower down, and I'm not sure if that was a good idea, to be honest. Like, the thing is that you don't want to delete the blacksmith to surround that. So this wasn't necessarily a great scenario. And the thing is that AJ has to pull a lot of Voyagers to fight this. I feel like he's overreacting this a little bit. Now he's on stone with 1 wheel, but what should happen here instead is make 3 Voyagers on stone, make a defensive tower over here, and you should be fine. This defensive tower was sort of unnecessary, if you ask me. You're protecting the berries with it, but like, the real thing that you get from this defensive tower is that it sort of prevents SongSong from dropping additional towers on your farming eco, so it is kind of preventing a food denial style play, but your gold mine is now a little bit exposed here, and holy smokes, that's a lot of skirmishers from SongSong. And whatever his playstyle is, you can tell that this is not the first time he's doing something like this with Byzantines, because holy smokes, he's doing this one well. Now, if there was like 3 scouts here, that would absolutely devastate all those skirms, or if AJ would get the infantry armor upgrade. Indeed, now we're going to have some scouts coming in, and the thing is that AJ is having 2 minutes decel time over here, quite a lot of Voyager idle time as well, so this is starting to impact AJ's eco here. And behind this one, even though technically the Viking eco is much, much better than the Byzantine eco, it is also worth considering that the Byzantines have a completely untouched eco in this game, and that's a lot of skirmishers, and even though each of these skirmishers pretty much does 1 damage, that's like 20 skirmishers. AJ will have to wait until he gets the scouts out. But the question is, does he have enough time for that? Because one thing that we shouldn't forget is now SongSong is 3 villagers ahead, and even though Wheelbarrow is there for AJ, that basically just means that now it's even economies for the 2 players. The Vikings' eco lead is gone, and it's 3 villagers killed by SongSong, 0 by his opponent, as AJ is trying to just jump back and forth into the tower, pulls the villagers. It's full aggro Byzantines play, ladies and gentlemen, and now AJ is forced to make another defensive tower, but that's a lot of skirmishers. And I think that the tower eventually might go up, but it's going to cost a lot of Voyagers for AJ, potentially. 50% only, and you see that a lot of these Voyagers will be very low, and that could be extremely bad for long-term fighting. It looks like now AJ will disengage, or SongSong will disengage, and start pushing this angle. Scouts are slowly coming in. The problem with scouts here is that the spears can still be there for SongSong. So a spear and skirm forward, if done well, can be pretty devastating. And honestly, I've never really seen a very, very well executed spear and skirm forward. So this is a first for me. He is really committing to this, and it really starts to show that he's consistently producing military, and he's really punishing his opponent. Oftentimes these pushes stall out because the quality of these units are pretty bad and they just get clapped by men-at-arms. They just get clapped by scouts if there isn't enough spearmen supporting, but that's not really the case over here. And holy smokes, AJ is getting absolutely torn apart by this forward. This is some very, very old school way of playing the game. And remember that behind this one, SongSong actually has a comparable, if not better, eco than his opponent, because he also has double bit axe, and now he also has wheelbarrow. So yeah, that's 2 villagers lead and double bit axe for SongSong. Make it 3 villagers lead, and the spear and skirm forward is actually working out over here for our Vietnamese player. That is crazy, and he's applying so much pressure. Look at this army of skirms. I'm not going to lie, I've never seen something like this before in competitive Age of Empires. I've been casting for 2 years now, but this is absolutely new to me. Like, I have seen attempted spear and skirm forwards, but usually they fail due to counterattacks, and it looks like SongSong is coming in here with a plan, and now the plan is that, okay, I have 34 army in Feudal Age, which is an amazing amount of units, by the way, and even though the quality of these units, as I said, is absolutely bad, there is a reason why they're called trash units, and a lot of them are low HP as well. SongSong is gonna go into Castle Age much, much faster than his opponent, and yet there's a couple of scouts here, sure. But there is 5 spearmen protecting this, and the 5 spearmen will be enough to deal with the scouts, and to be honest, when you have the scouts that have no armor upgrades, that many skirmishers will actually be decent against it. Like, one volley of these skirms actually does like 30 damage to a scout. And here's the counterattack. The tricky thing is that, as I said, SongSong has walled himself up, and that's going to be pretty troublesome for AngelinaJolie. He could try running past the TC though, and that would be a disaster. One of the main ways that you can lose a forward is by potentially allowing your opponent to get into your base like that. All those walls were worthless because they came in a little too late, at least for the reaction to the scouts. Now, those are beautiful quick walls from SongSong, so credits to him for pretty much being able to quick wall the majority of his wills, and he's gonna lose a couple. But yeah, basically, this is why forwards are no longer that common, because people started realizing that if your opponent goes forward, then he has no production buildings back at home, and that means that I can just counterattack his base and kill his eco. Now, the quick walls were very nice here for SongSong, and he needs to send in a couple of spearmen back, and we shouldn't underestimate the fact that he still has like 30 army here on the field, so, and AJ has to stonewall himself. He's getting close to Castle Age, but SongSong is gonna beat him there pretty easily, and now that there is a stable here, he can just make a knight and clean these scouts up. And also the spearman could even trap these scouts in here. So, like, there is one exit here. If the spearmen come from this direction, these scouts will all die. AJ on the way to Castle Age with a 2 minutes deficit. And that would mean, and that should mean, that we're going to see knights potentially forward siege workshop. And there were forward villagers still here from SongSong, right? Yeah, there's forward villagers. So this is probably going to turn into a pike and siege push here. Scouts will survive, at least for the time being. And it looks like we will have what could be long swords from AJ, because he's getting scale mail, and I assume the only thing I can imagine here that actually is useful is long swords. Look at that, spearmen and skirms actually taking down archer ranges. This is crazy. And of course, elite skirm is the first thing that SongSong is gonna make, and no siege workshop just yet, but there will be a couple of knights coming out as well, I assume. Or it could be camos as well, because if he's expecting AJ to get knights out, then camos will be a must. The thing is that once AJ gets knights out, it's a completely different scenario though. Like, these skirms were devastating in Feudal Age because the scouts without the armor upgrades aren't amazing at killing this big blob of units, especially when they're supported by spearmen. But once Castle Age hits for AJ, he's gonna be able to get a couple of knights on the field, and those will be devastating this. So SongSong will need something to deal with that. Potentially monks, camels, his own knights, whatever could be useful. And it seems like he will continue playing with what is going to be pike and skirm here. No siege to support though. That's the surprising thing for SongSong. It seems like he just wants to pressure his opponent, then boom behind. That's the game plan over here. Castle Age in for AJ. And he wants a defensive castle. That's actually a smart idea. So one of the things that absolutely destroys this one very, very easily is Berserks, and that could be very troublesome for SongSong. Now, AJ's eco is actually pretty weak over here. No double bit axe, now he has handcart, but he's behind by 7 villagers, so the eco for SongSong is still better. However, I don't think that SongSong is prepared to deal with Berserks, and that's the plan for AJ. Now AJ has sent all his gold vouchers over here, and I think since he's still capped 15 on stone, he probably wants a second castle somewhere around over here. And as I said, Berserks will be an interesting unit as long as SongSong isn't able to get Catapracts. And nope, he taps out. Why did he just resign? I mean, sure, it wasn't looking great, but a couple of Berserks could have turned this game around. Like, if he wanted to tap out, he could have tapped out 3 minutes earlier. I don't understand this from AJ. I mean, this could have been a moment where he starts turning this around. 5-6 Berserks with +1 or +2 defense will just melt this entire army, and suddenly you have Berserks that SongSong has no answer for. I think this is a premature GG from AJ. Not because he was, like, maybe, I think he looked at the score and said, my opponent is way ahead. That's the only thing I can imagine here. 2.3k versus 3.3k, that's the only thing I can imagine why you would actually resign in this situation, because yes, he was behind in economy, he was behind in map position, but he was basically behind in every considerable aspect of the game, with the exception of the unit composition. Like, he could have had a unit comp, even just +1 defense Berserks, 5-6 of them, especially if you add 1 or 2 knights, and he had a good enough eco to squeeze out a couple of them, would be destroying this entire thing. Obviously, then it is still debatable if you are able to win the game, but you would be destroying this army, and suddenly you would have an army that SongSong isn't really able to stop. And you could go either forward siege workshop and push his base, or just capitalize on Viking eco and try to catch up in comparison to Byzantines. But anyways, that is game number 1 over here. I'm somewhat disappointed in AJ, I have to say, because as I said, I feel like he was actually very, very close to turning this one around, I believe. Alright, so that means that we have this first game in the hands of a SongSong, and that brings us to the civilization draft. So Byzantines are gone for SongSong, having 100% win rate on Arabia, I am sure. And the Vikings are gone for AJ, which was his last civilization pick. Both of these players actually went for some very late civ picks over here. Surprising that SongSong didn't go for Franks on Arabia. I think he just wanted to make AJ think that he's going Franks, but he went for this Byzantine skirm and forward play, and that actually was an extremely good play for him. He really played this one aggressive, and that showed. So with that, we are going to jump into the first home map of AngelinaJolie, which is going to be Bay. So let's get in there. And all right, so we have the game up, and I can switch to the game. Give me a moment. And hello. Okay, good. So welcome to Bay over here. We will have AngelinaJolie playing as Lithuanians in blue here, going for the fast dock play. So what he does basically is send the villagers all to wood at the beginning, because you start with a lot of extra food, so you don't immediately need to gather food for yourself, and he's gonna drop the dock immediately. This secures a massive eco lead for him in Dark Age and early Feudal. SongSong is going to be playing Italians over here, which is a somewhat unconventional pick for this map, but it can be really strong. Like, Italians is a very slow but strong army, especially in late game, and if you are actually willing to like fight for this part of the map, that could still work out with Italians. However, for me, especially for late game, Italians are a little too slow when it comes to defending all these outside areas, so I'm not necessarily a big fan of Italians over here. SongSong will be in yellow, and AngelinaJolie playing in blue. So you will see the eco bars rise a lot faster for AngelinaJolie. He already has his dock down, and that, as I said, is going to be a huge eco lead for him. Also, the fact that he's going for a fast dock means that SongSong wasn't really able to snipe a villager from him, whereas AJ could just attempt to snipe that will now with his own scout, because he doesn't have to protect his own docking villager. And indeed, he is going for that. That's excellent. Nice quick pause from SongSong until he loses that will. The game plan here was extremely good for AJ. And it was really sloppy from SongSong that he didn't protect his Voyager with the Scout. If you send out the Will without Loom, you have to protect it with your Scout. And the thing is that one of the ways, or one of the reasons why AJ didn't have to protect his own Voyager over here is because he went for a fast dock play over here, as we have Feudal Age already in for AJ, and Feudal Age will almost be in as well for SongSong. But as you see, even with the cheaper age up of Italians, he's going to be late because the Lithuanian eco at the beginning is so strong. So this build order has been extremely good for AJ. Also, the dock being delayed from SongSong doesn't help. So he's gonna get 2 fishing ships by the time he reaches Feudal Age. And even more importantly, AJ can start pushing the water immediately. SongSong actually went for some wars on his base, and it seems like we're going to see Fire Galley fights. Whereas for AJ, he just wants to destroy the opponent's fishing eco, but he's not going for a second dock, which means that we may just see a land aggression coming from him overall, or he might think that his opponent is not going to fight the water, and that is actually a wrong claim. It's interesting that AngelinaJolie is playing with just 1 Fire Galley here. As good as his opening was, I feel like it's a little sloppy over here, as one of the Voyagers will get damaged a tiny bit, but the Scout is too weak to finish off the lady here, so that means that AJ will be fully Void, potentially preparing for a counterattack, but the fact that he's only playing on 1 dock actually hurts really badly for him, even though he is winning these fights. Nice demo snipe over there from SongSong, so the water might be cleaned up very early on here in this one, so we might just see both players losing water control pretty early. Anyways, SongSong does have a Scout over here, so you can check what AJ is doing, and it seems like what AJ is going to transition to is a boom into Castle Age play, and he'll probably try to play Knights as much as possible, which could work out, to be honest, because Italians are somewhat struggling against early Knights. Their Genoese crossbows will be amazing, that's for sure, but you need a castle for that. So what we could see is an early pressure play from AngelinaJolie with Knights, potentially Monks and Siege. He's also winning water here, so it's one thing that he was able to keep one of his fishing ships alive, but he's winning water 1 against 2 docks, even though SongSong will keep investing into ships. But I feel like at this point, I like AJ's position a lot more. He's got land eco upgrades, he's getting farming eco up, and the thing is that even if SongSong takes water, SongSong is not going to benefit from that at all, and I would borderline call this an overinvestment from SongSong. So he's getting a lot of ships out, and he won't really get any major benefit from it. Like, he will have 1 fishing ship. Obviously, he can start building up his fishing eco, but by the time that actually starts to impact the game, AJ is gonna be in Castle Age, and that indeed is what we're seeing over here. So, fast feudal, and then boom into Castle Age is the name of the game, and if you compare the food ecos, SongSong is still heavy on gold, which means that he's still trying to make as many ships as possible, whereas for AJ, he transitioned to food a little earlier. Also worth knowing that AJ does have this fishing ship still working, whereas his opponent has the fishing ship idle. This is a nice little extra eco as well for AJ, who will now have to save his fishing ship over here. Now SongSong is the one that brings in his own fishing ship to work, but you can see that the Castle Age differences will be extremely big. AJ will be missing a second building as well, so he will need... Now he needs 2 buildings. Goes for a blacksmith over here, and originally wanted to go for a stable here, but then goes for a gate. And where's the stable at? There is no stable right now coming in for him. He isn't getting no more Fire Galleys in, so let's see if SongSong actually starts adding fishing ships. Indeed, he will. And obviously, if those fishing ships start kicking in for SongSong, his eco is going to be much better. But until then, AngelinaJolie is going to have a massive lead into Castle Age, and he's going to be able to go for a couple of Knights, go for Siege push, and this Goldman is dangerously exposed for SongSong. SongSong will probably try to buy himself up. What I could imagine is potentially selling his stone to go up, and that could be something to consider for SongSong here. He could actually get a pretty comparable Castle Age time compared to AJ. He's missing the blacksmith, but that, to me, the fact that he's rushing it up with 4 makes me think that he wants to buy himself up as soon as possible. And remember, Italians can go up to next day cheaper, so at the end of the day, this wasn't as bad for SongSong as I thought it would be. So soon you will see the eco getting balanced. With that, I don't think that stone is gonna be sold. Yeah, SongSong is just gonna wait it out, which may backfire over here because this is giving precious time for AngelinaJolie. If he just sold his stone and it went up, AJ wouldn't capitalize on the Castle Age advantage. Now, AngelinaJolie will likely have the chance to do that. So there is going to be about a minute or so castle age difference for two players over here. And it's also worth noting that there is no stone within the base of SongSong. So he can go for defensive castles, which means that he will be pretty exposed to like Knight and Siege type of a push. He's getting his eco up though, it's already 5 villagers lead, so fishing ships flooding out here, and eventually his food eco is going to surpass the one from AJ. And one thing that he could do, especially if he knows that there is knights coming his way, and there's a chance he does, although we aren't sure yet, if he sees the bloodlines on the opponent's scout, he should be able to know that it's going to be knights coming his way. Here's the forward voyager for what is going to be, as I said, a forward siege workshop, potentially a monastery coming in early as well. And AJ will be coming in with double stable knights. Appropriate defense would probably be pikemen over here, as there's a spearman out already for SongSong, and he's making a stable for knights. And this is the moment where if SongSong realizes, hey, my opponent has +1 defense and bloodlines on it, he knows that it's going to be knights, so he has to go for spearman / pikeman defense. And indeed, AJ is going to have to place his siege workshop somewhere around over here because there's already spearman patrolling the area. And I wouldn't even be surprised to see an early pikeman upgrade from SongSong here. Remember that he's got the better eco now that he has water, which means that all he needs to do is sort of just not die, basically. So, even getting a couple of scouts out, there is an early monastery from AJ. I think AJ might have spotted that stable and he thinks it's gonna be knights. Yeah, he sees the stable, so he knows it's gonna be knights, and that's why he's adding a monastery over here. And here come his own knights. SongSong will not be able to intercept that voyager, but he may still get it, as the demo is going to kill the scout that wasn't really efficient. But a monastery as well for SongSong, so he knows that it's going to be Night Wars. And it's also worth noting that this scout will intercept this voyager, and that's huge. That will deny the siege from AJ, and that's extremely important because that means no scorpions against the pikemen, no rams against the buildings. And AJ tries a quick wall, fails to do that, and the scout will get that voyager just in time. So AJ is gonna have to send another one to finish that siege workshop over here. Definitely not how he imagined this game for him. 4 Vultures lead right now for SongSong. Eco upgrades are completely even, and SongSong is going to be playing on 2 TCs soon, whereas AJ will be dropping TC number 2 as well in a matter of moments. So, third PC coming in here for AJ, expanding his base towards additional woodlands, which are pretty scarce at the starting bases of the players. So expanding towards woodlands is actually always a good idea on this map. And now the question is if AJ is going to start picking up relics, because that's something that he could do, especially with a monastery like this. He could even go for this relic, and if he just sends one monk to this relic and then slowly picks those up, that's going to give him an advantage. And one thing that Italians aren't really good in is just, you know, beating the knights of the opponent that has gonna have a lot of relics. In the meanwhile, though, if you see SongSong getting forged stone, that means that we're getting close to a defensive castle. And Genoese crossbows would absolutely annihilate all these knights. So it doesn't matter how good your knights are in terms of attack if you're up against Genoese crossbows, because the knights won't even reach the gembos. 7 villagers lead right now for SongSong, and he's got a very, very consistent villager production on those TCs. And he has now 10 villagers lead, so he's taking over really fast over here. AJ has a lot of TC idle time coming in here for him, so apparently he's somewhat struggling producing knights and villagers at the same time. He will be on free TCs and starting to pick up relics. He even made a monastery back at home for the safety of those relics. But as I said, the longer you wait, the more time you give for SongSong for a defensive cast. There's also defensive mangonel here. SongSong picking up relic number 1. And one thing I didn't think about is that maybe Italians, as I said, I'm not necessarily a big fan of this civ on this map in a very, very late game scenario, but it sort of acts as a counter pick from mid to, or mid castle age to like mid imperial age. Because the Genoese crossbows bombard cannon play is something that Lithuanians will struggle against really badly. Like, they can go for their skirms, but ideally on this map, what the Lithuanian player wants is to go for the relics and just flood the map with insanely strong cavalry. That being said, it looks like we are gonna have SongSong looking for the monks over here, and I like that he's using knights or soon it's scout as well to deny these relics. Because right now, AJ has one relic and he's gonna be able to pick up... technically, this one is already taken by SongSong, he's gonna go for this one, and something that many high-level players don't do on this map against Lithuanians is collect relics, and SongSong is doing that. That's actually very smart from him, that he just plain and casual collecting relics, and if he's able to grab 3 or potentially even 4 for himself, that's gonna be jackpot, because it seems like SongSong isn't really getting pushed here, and I feel like AJ is misplaying this one really heavily, because the thing is that SongSong is almost ready to click into Imperial Age with the eco that he has. He could drop a castle here, and then just start pushing with Genoese crossbows and bombard cannons really soon. I think AJ is thinking about the castle himself as well, as this knight and this lady is having some very weird dances over here. Pathfinding improvements, right? Anyways, this scout is gonna go down from AJ's, leaving him kind of blind on the map, because now he only has knights. There's also one more scout, but the lack of scouts will also mean that he's not really able to directly engage all the monks that SongSong has over here. And indeed, here comes Imperial Age for SongSong. And soon that's gonna be a castle. You could even make a case for Arbalest play here, but I feel like it is safer to just go for the Genoese crossbows. Keep the 8 Voyagers on stone, so you can actually get a second castle up pretty soon. And that's an ambitious castle draw from SongSong. That's way too ambitious. You don't know what your opponent has because you haven't seen his army, and it's a lot of knights. So, yeah, I think SongSong is gonna have to really cancel that castle in the moment because it's way too much to handle. He can actually try getting a couple of conversions in, and if he went for a little bit more passive castle, I would say that he's definitely having a pretty dominant position right now, but he just has to go for defensive castle instead of just trying to castle drop his opponent when you don't know what your opponent has in terms of army. And it's only 2 knights from SongSong, so he didn't really invest a lot into this one. Now gets his monks killed. Is SongSong going to throw away this game? He's on the way to Imperial, but his army is way worse than his opponent's army. And now I think AJ will soon find out there is a castle on the way. Oh, AJ doesn't see that. AJ sees the castle, and it seems like he's just not willing to commit. I think if he commits to this, he stops this castle, and that could backfire so badly for him. I think he could have stopped this castle. Now, obviously, he probably wasn't sure how completed that castle is. Maybe he thought, okay, that castle is going up and I don't want to waste my army here. But I think he could have actually stopped this castle. Once again, credit to SongSong for picking up all the relics. We will have 1 relic in here for Project Belgium, who's actually AngelinaJolie. But as I said, the 2 players play so similarly that I just accidentally called AJ Project Belgium. But there's the 2nd relic, and the 3rd relic will be potentially in the hands of AJ as well. And now you make Jambos indeed. The problem with the Jambos here is that it takes so much time for you to train a lot of them. But once you start getting decent numbers out of those, they will just absolutely dominate everything. Bracer on the way, Ballistics is already in. There is a lot of knights in this one. Once again, you have to bail out on that castle, and you don't have enough Genoese crossbows to fight this one. That's the problem that you're facing. You could turn around with the Spearman and take this fight, but yeah, once again, this is just not enough, and I feel like SongSong wants to grab more than what he can hold, sort of. He's really willing to go for forward castles, but come on, man, you have a massive imp advantage. Just wait until you have 10 Jambos, and you will start melting those knights, and you don't need to push this one right now. Obviously, I think that he's afraid that his opponent is just going to overrun him with better, like with Cavalier in Imperial, or potentially he's afraid of skirmishers coming in, which indeed is coming in right now for Project it's not Project Belgium, it's AngelinaJolie. But you still have a bit of a time. But as you see, the biggest problem that the Genoese crossbows face in this position is a production bottleneck. Chemistry is on the way for SongSong, so he's gonna get the great combination of Jambos, bombard cannons for him. He also has a pretty reliable fishing income over here, and ecos are still pretty close. But slowly but surely, AngelinaJolie is stacking into skirmishers, and Cavalier Skirm, especially with 3 relics for Lithuanians, will just absolutely dominate everything that SongSong has. I feel like he shouldn't have moved out with his first castle, because that also delayed that castle going up. He could have had like 20 Genoese crossbows by now if he just goes for a defensive castle and doesn't want to play that greedy. Now he's moving out though, but his opponent is almost up to Imperial and he still doesn't have any siege working for him. Chemistry was a little too late from him. as he's grabbing another stone mine. He wants his third castle. One of the things that will be interesting to monitor is that he's going to be very reliant on his castles to produce his military, whereas that's not the case for AngelinaJolie. He can just make skirms on ranges, and those skirms are starting to get pretty decent already, so the window might already be closing here for SongSong pretty rapidly over here. Still no siege to back this one up, and that's a problem. He's now making traps, but I feel like when you play Genoese crossbows, you have to play bombard cannons, and the reason why is because you need those castles to produce Genoese crossbows instead of making traps. Still, if you have a lot of bombard cannons on the field, the skirmishers won't really be able to do much. And now AJ gets a confirmation that, hey, I'm up against Genoese crossbows, I might as well go for my elite skirms. Now, the thing is that there isn't really a lot of elite skirms on the field, it's only a couple, and they are also only having +1 defense. That is a tower shields, which is going to give you some extra pierce armor for your skirms, and also kept ram chemistry on the way for AJ. Still no bombard cannon though from SongSong, which is, I think, a bit of a disappointment. He's a little too low on gold as well, and one trap isn't going to change a lot here. Really, you need a couple of bombard cannons. Now those are coming out finally, as he's still, I think, having the better army, because there is skirms over here, but it's 11 skirms with now +4 defense, but there is bombard cannons up against them, and the cavalry will melt to the jambos. This is still a tricky micro, but with bombard cannon and Genoese crossbows, you should be able to micro this one, and now you can start shelling that castle. If you take that castle down, you open up the entire front of AJ's base. Right now, what AJ has to play for is just try to hold this castle until he's able to get some decent skirmisher numbers up, and there comes the +4 defense, or what would be normally the +4 defense, but it's going to add it up to +6 for the Lithuanian skirms. Still, SongSong needs more bombard cannons, so you need at least 3-4 bombard cannons in this situation, to be honest, because you want to make sure that you can just absolutely level all those skirms. Now, SongSong is expanding to neutral gold mines over here, and he's got multiple casts, and as I said, the blob of Genoese crossbows is getting scarier and scarier. Luckily for AJ, Lithuanians do have very, very good skirmishers, and now they have +6, and if you had 3-4 bombard cannons over here, those skirms wouldn't even be able to do anything. But it's a little too low right now for SongSong. Moves in. Still, the castle is slowly going down, and we're gonna have rams on the way for AJ as well. The castle is on fire, and there's multiple new bombard cannons coming in here. Architecture and Cavalier just coming in, but Cavalier won't really be able to save you unless you kill all the Genoese crossbows first. Architecture coming a little too late, so that castle was impossible to be saved. In this one, nice staggered formation by AngelinaJolie to make sure that he minimizes the losses of skirmishers. And one thing that he could do is potentially block printing redemption monks. I think Lithuanians do have those, because Lithuanian monks are pretty nice. Onager is on the way for SongSong, and he could just retreat to the safety of his castle. Cavaliers now pop out, and the thing is that those bombard cannons are massively mispositioned. SongSong, he's gonna have to focus down the cavalry and then just hope that his Onager pops out in time to finish off those skirmishers, which may still happen. The Onager needs to pop out on this side, and the Cavaliers are really low in numbers. Onager pops out, gets a huge hit on the skirmishers. A lot of skirms will be destroyed by the castles as well, and SongSong, I think, is holding this one. This was the entire army that AngelinaJolie has had, and it seems like that Onager came in just in time. Onager will now start to destroy those rams. I think that castle might hold. It's going to be close, because there isn't really a lot of vultures repairing, but now the rams will start going down. If the Onagers actually focus fire on the rams, I think they can save that castle. Nope. I think they could have actually done that if they focused fire. Still, that doesn't change the fact that Project Belgium... I'm going to scream here. It's not Project Belgium, it's actually AngelinaJolie. I apologize for AJ, sincerely here. Like, as I said, the two players are so similar, and in fact, they're teammates. They play a lot of tournaments together, so this is why I'm often confusing the two players. Anyways, we got one light cav raiding over here, but SongSong is already preparing the next wave, and that's going to be light cav raids. And remember that AJ only has, he has a couple of Cavalier, but he's mostly skirms, and he's also kind of cornered within here, so light cav raids could really be devastating against him. New bombard cannons are out, and once again, those Cavalier will just melt. They absolutely melt the Genoese crossbows, and there's very, very few units that are actually good against Lithuanian Cavalier when the Cavalier have free relics, even though AJ doesn't actually have the attack upgrade, so it would be +7, but it's +4 right now only. And now Cavalier moving here to try and deny the gold from SongSong. SongSong still has gold, so it's not really going to really impact him right now. Onagers, bombard cannons, generous corpses. There's bombard cannons as well coming in from AngelinaJolie, so he will try to take down the opponent's bombard cannons and the onagers. Still, I think that once Hussar comes in, I think that actually Italian Hussar are pretty decent. Look at that. Look at that. Italian Hussar are surprisingly good. I didn't even know that. They have bloodlines, they have +4 defense available, they have the attack upgrades, they even have Hussar. Are they fully upgraded Hussar? That's a new piece of information for me, because you rarely see Italians playing with Hussar, but it seems like they have very, very good Hussar, and that is once again an advantage for SongSong, having a pretty firm control over this game. Eventually AJ is going to kill the Vultures here in that TC, and now he has the eco lead, but I feel like, once again, Italians isn't a fast civ, but it has a very, very strong push overall. So you see that this blob, the onagers, the bombard cannons, the Hussar, the Gembos, they're extremely hard to stop. And soon those light cav or Hussars will be fully upgraded, and they'll be able to start raiding the eco of AngelinaJolie, and there is a lot to raid, to be honest. Now, bombard cannon will get taken down by the trap. That was a nice move from AJ, and he keeps the castle alive. He's mining stone with a lot of vills, and in the meanwhile, however, we will soon have the light caps potentially moving to the left side. I think the only thing I'm not sure that Italians have or not is husbandry, because it seems like they have everything else for the cavalry. Still, those are still very decent Hussar, as AJ mismicros his bombard cannon, loses 2 over there, and the Hussar are going to hit these Vultures over here. If they find those, that's actually disaster for AJ. SongSong sees that, but he might be too busy microing his units. Nope, he actually sees that. Nice quick walls from AJ to protect those villas over there as he dispatches the cavalry to the other side. Bombard cannon still taking down the castle. 2 bombard cannons died to the traps. Apparently SongSong was also too busy fighting this one or microing this one, that he wasn't paying attention to his bombard cannons. Here now, a couple of traps would make sense from SongSong, because it's harder for AJ to kill those traps. However, onagers getting some very nice shots on the skirmishers, and that could be even better. Hussars also getting unleashed, and really this castle is what prevents SongSong from breaking into the base of his opponent. Gembos will intercept the light cav and the cavalier over here. There is still... Okay, this also was cleaned up by those Genoese crossbows, and now they will head all the way around here, and it seems like this push will just start going for this place, or they might be hitting the stone mine. There is a yellow corpse over here, so I assume that SongSong has found that stone mine. I don't know if it's a good idea to completely divert all your army to the left side of the map, especially without any siege support, especially if you just onager down your own Hussar. However, those skirms are massively mispositioned, and they might just be intercepted by the Hussar over here. There is now Halberdier coming into support, and SongSong is having a pretty bad fight over here. The onagers are lagging behind, and as I said, I wasn't sure if you want to do this. Is SongSong going to throw away this game? He had a massive lead in this one, but now he's losing the Genoese crossbows here. He lost some onagers and siege weapons over here just because he wanted to move in this direction without siege support. And if he just goes this way and destroys that castle with 3 traps and a couple of bombard cannons, this could have been a completely different game. Now he lost a lot of these Genoese crossbows, an awful scenario. His army requires all of these components to be at the same place. As I said, one of the things I don't like about Italians for this map is that this army is extremely slow. Like, Italians is one of the slowest armies in the game. But when it pushes, it's extremely devastating as well. But you need all the components together, and SongSong is down to 18 Genoese crossbows. That's not ideal, although the truth being told, there isn't really a lot of cavalry to fight against anymore. 4 traps shelling that castle. Bombard cannon is also out though, and now the Hussar will try to dive in on the bombard cannon. 1 trap goes down, but it's 3 traps shelling that castle. Ram comes in here. Trap is going to go down, and there is enough villagers to repair that castle. I think AJ is holding this. I think AJ is holding this one for the time being. Losing those traps is crucial for SongSong. He still has stone available. He might just dive in with the light cap though, and he's having more. Like, the thing is that he's able to bring in more units than what AJ can, and he's slowly gaining ground. Imagine if he didn't take that awful engagement over there. Look at those paladins or cavaliers trying to dive in to snipe the traps, and they actually succeed in doing so because the Gembos weren't focusing down those cavaliers. as we have more bombard cannons on the way for SongSong. AJ is expanding to the left side over here, and SongSong, well, he's trying to do that as well. No units coming from those siege workshops, as the castle still stands. Now bombard cannons are moving in though. 4 bombard cannons shelling the castle. First he would take down those traps though, although you might just use the light cap for it. And SongSong is diving in very, very deep. He knows exactly that castle is extremely important for his opponent over there. Military numbers still extremely close. Eco upgrades much, much better for SongSong. So really, it's a now or never hold for AngelinaJolie, but he's holding, and I feel like SongSong is doing an awful job with actual pushes. Now he's going for Pavise, which is going to give an extra armor, I think, for the Genoese crossbows. So I feel like if SongSong just completely starts pushing this one before he started moving to the left, he would have finished it off. But he lost way too many units trying to move to the left side, and now AngelinaJolie is slowly pushing against him. Bombard cannons are still in good numbers over here for SongSong though, and he's setting up stables now for raids on the left side, which would I think be pretty crucial for him. 156 eco for AJ, that's actually crazy. Like, that's sort of an overboom scenario over here. And now the Halberdiers are coming out here from our Lithuanian player as well, but there isn't really a lot of Halberdiers, so you can actually take this fight here and have a pretty decent result. Indeed, now AngelinaJolie is dropping in military numbers, and there is enough siege for SongSong to back this one up. This is definitely a very, very good game. Overall, this series is extremely promising. Tumbling was very late over here for SongSong. He made a range when he was going up to Imperial, and I thought he's gonna get Tumbling over there, but that wasn't really the case. Imagine if he had Tumbling the whole time, he would be melting these units. Once again, dives in very, very deep over here, even into the range of the castle, but you just need to stay out and just keep shutting the castle. 4 bombard cannons and a trap will be able to take it down without any problems. And indeed, the castle does go down. Military numbers are still pretty close, but at least there is no more castle support here for AngelinaJolie, so I think that is a sort of a small win here for SongSong. AJ still has a lot of villagers on go. There is battering rams on the way. SongSong could use a couple more villagers on food, I believe, because he's very heavy towards light cavalry. And the thing is that if we actually turn this into a full-scale trash war in like very, very late game, I think that Lithuanians will have the upper hand in that one. However, map position-wise and overall map control-wise, I feel like SongSong is in a better spot. It looks like now that the Genoese crossbows are gone, Paladin is going to be the name of the game for AJ, but the thing is that he's still just on 4 Cavaliers, so that Paladin, I understand the concept, but he doesn't really have the numbers right now to justify that. However, if he gets the Paladin numbers up high, he's gonna be able to win this game with that, because his opponent is down to 8 Genoese crossbowmen, and Paladin's Cur may still be enough to edge out the victory here. However, there is the raids coming in. Remember that AJ has a massive overboom, and even then, his population is just even to his opponents, and now the army numbers are dropping so fast for AJ. He's floating a lot of food and gold, trying to get some quality units out on the field, because he's missing numbers on the field, but he's also missing quality, I would say. But the thing is that Paladin will still melt the Genoese crossbows, and it seems like SongSong is now starting to hit the eco, which means that soon the economy for his opponent is going to start collapsing, especially with rams popping out on this DC. Paladins will snipe the bombard cannon, probably the rams as well, as AJ goes for a defensive cast on the left side ridge. But behind this one, this part of the eco is collapsing, and remember, there is the monastery that holds the relics. And if you're SongSong, the goal is to take that down, because that would pretty much render those Paladins, well, I'm not going to say they're useless, but they are going to be just standard Paladins, and Genoese crossbows are very, very good against standard Paladins. I think if AJ wants to win, he's gonna have to channel the force of the +7 Paladins over here. That's what he can hope for, but SongSong still 58 army against 37, although now AJ is getting the Paladin numbers up high, and the quality of the army, if you take a look at army value, it's much closer than the actual numbers. So even though it's 60 army against 40, it's 5.5k army value against 4.4k. And Jembos taking down the Paladins. This is not really cost efficient for AJ, but it might be sustainable short term, especially with ram support that draws away the fire of the Genoese crossbows. And now the army numbers equalized out. There's a lot of food in the bank for SongSong. He needs to add a lot more stables. He's on 11 stables. Well, he doesn't need a lot more stables. He needs consistent Hussar production and spam them into the opponent's eco. Now he takes over in terms of villager lead though, and he's gonna go for his own rams as well. Pikemen being added to the mix here, but Italian pikemen are awful. If one thing that is something that they do not have, it's going to be good pikemen. Because basically the fact that Genoese crossbows are amazing against cavalry is compensated by the fact that they do not have a very, very good pikemen. So pikemen here from the Italian player is absolutely disastrous, and it seems like AJ will just dive and try to snipe as many Genoese crossbows as he can. Nice micro over there from him. But a lot of paladins are also melting here, and there's onagers on the field too. Onagers getting a shot out, but missing the skirmishers. The skirms are doing an excellent job killing the Gembos. There's only 18 Gembos left on the field, and they are not really sturdy as a unit. So it's pretty easy to kill them with +7 paladin, and that's a lot of paladin. Now, once again, I feel like SongSong has maybe thrown away way too much army here when it comes to the Genoese crossbows. And I can't help but wonder what would have happened if he doesn't start moving to the left. He was in a prime position to just absolutely shatter the resistance of AngelinaJolie over here. He had like 50 Genoese crossbows, onagers, bombard cannons, trebs, and he would have been able to do that. He started dropping in Genoese crossbow numbers when he started moving to the left, and he separated his Genoese crossbows from the onagers, and now it's only 6 Genoese crossbows. And the thing is that AJ still has 25 on gold. He can keep spamming paladins with +7, and what a comeback this is gonna be from AJ. And what a throw from SongSong. And this is how this game looks like. One bad move and you lose the game. And that bad move from SongSong was moving to the left. It was also really sloppy from him at the beginning of Imperial that he just tried forcing castles that he shouldn't have forced, and that delayed him for going into Genoese crossbows. It's not completely over yet, but now you will have paladins running into the eco. And remember that SongSong will need those castles to produce Gembos. That you see that there is a significant production bottleneck right now. And if you start looking around the map, you see paladins flooding everywhere, and paladins are hard to kill and they're excellent as raiding units. And this map is actually something that, one of the reasons why Lithuanians are so commonly picked on this map is because there is so much gold that you can sustain paladins for a long, long time, much longer than, let's say, on Arabia. If you think about that, this is a 1 hour long game, and he's still happily spamming paladins that has 23 on gold. So really, I feel like SongSong's move to start pushing the left was a mistake. He could have just leveled the base of AJ here, and what a hold from him. Multiple times has he sniped down the traps, the bombard cannons that were threatening the castles. And now it seems like we're actually getting to a full-on trash war. Genoese crossbows increasing in numbers once again, but SongSong's eco has taken a significant beating. And as I said, one of the reasons why I don't like Italians on this map is because they're slow. In late game you need mobility, and I feel like now what you're seeing is indeed Italians struggling against a civ that has higher mobility and just raiding him to death. 112 villagers only for SongSong, and even though he has another army over here, I feel like the problem will be that he will just get raided to death. So 105 villagers now, dropping in villager count quite rapidly. Is SongSong, his eco overall is pretty inefficient now, and he has only 9 on gold. And now AngelinaJolie is going to start counterattacking this one, and the skirmishers will be very, very useful at dealing with the pikemen. You see that pikemen are absolute junk here. And Italians don't have halberdier. As I said, that is the one that compensates for the availability of the Genoese crossbows. And as I said, AJ, he's even floating just 4k food. There could still be counterattacks here from SongSong, but now this is definitely an uphill battle, and I think that is represented by the score really well. That SongSong was dominating this game for quite a while, but AJ's holds were pretty impressive, and overall, this series is shaping out to be one of the most impressive series of the first round of qualifiers. This is absolutely astonishing and amazing. So now if SongSong wants to win, he needs to raid his way back into the game. That being said, if he's able to raid his way back into the game, those paladins will still melt to the Genoese crossbows. So this game is not over yet, maybe. Now SongSong is definitely having an uphills battle, but he's rebooming over here, and one thing that AJ is no longer doing is raiding. So if SongSong can just keep adding more cavalry and just raid his opponent's eco to death, that could be something. And also, it's not Project Belgium, it's AngelinaJolie. We should actually have a counter which just counts how many times I've said Project Belgium instead of AJ. So the thing is, that's a nice micro over there from AJ. Draws away the skirmishers until the halberdiers clean up the cavalry. But the Gembos are still able to take some very, very good shots against the paladins. And remember, as I said, AJ barely has any gold left over here because his gold mines got raided. So the more paladins he loses, the more expensive it's going to be to replace them. And you see that right now he has 8 villagers on gold. He could still sell food to do this. In the meanwhile, SongSong needs to garrison his Gembos into the castle to prevent them from being killed by the skirmishers, but now it's 5 trebs. And the thing is that if the castles go down, bye-bye Genoese crossbow production, that's the thing. SongSong, 170 population against his opponent, 195 still. I think that now SongSong is the one that is gonna have to make a final stand here. And the thing is that if he's holding that, however, he's gonna be able to potentially start turning this one around once again. Genoese crossbow number is now coming in to be very, very low. You really could have made a case for just garrisoning into the castle to protect them from the skirms a little bit, but there is more. And the thing is that if it's full-on trash war, Lithuanians will still be better than like 90% of the civilizations. Guilds coming in, and you see how good the food prices are. That's actually life-saving right now for AngelinaJolie, because he's able to squeeze in probably 20-30 more paladins with that food count. Oh my goodness, that was an enormous onager hit. Now, this castle can't go down. If this castle goes down, it's game over, because you will have no more Genoese crossbows to stop the paladins. So this is a now or never for SongSong. If he loses that castle, he needs to pull everything he has to repair that. He's got 5,000 HP on it, that is melting way too fast. Bombard cannon getting sniped by the trap, and that's gonna be enough for AJ. And as I said, if there is no Genoese crossbows, this game is over, because you will have nothing that stops paladins. As I said, because of the very good food prices still, AJ is actually able to get an awful lot of paladins out now. So he's still able to get a lot of paladins on the field. He'll probably go up to something like 30-ish paladins. And it's also worth noting that without the Genoese crossbows, Italians really struggle against heavy cavalry, even light cavalry, to be honest. Once again, nice move. And really, if there is one thing that is deciding the outcome of the game, is that AJ was always able to take the Genoese crossbows down with his skirms. He has had an excellent micro when it comes to just positioning his skirmishers in a way that the Genoese crossbows will always be within the range of those skirmishers. Obviously, the faster moving Lithuanian skirms help with that, but now it's an absolute stomp, and 75 army against 28. SongSong was so close to winning this game, but then AJ's final hold was crazy. And one thing that worked out better for AngelinaJolie in this game is that he was able to protect his base against the siege. Like, he was able to take down multiple bombard cannons, whereas when the time came, SongSong wasn't able to deal with these traps. And really, AJ's skirmisher micro was extremely good. He took down way too many Genoese crossbows for SongSong to compensate. In fact, as I said, I feel like the game started to slip for SongSong when he lost so many Genoese crossbows upon separating his army. If he just, like, he had 50 Genoese crossbows, like 4 bombard cannons, multiple traps, he could have just hammered his way into the base of AJ and pretty much finish him off. Instead, he decided to move to the left, but as I said, Italian army is slow moving, and for that moment in the game, he needed to combine all his army. So the onagers protecting the Genoese crossbows from the skirms, the Genoese crossbows protecting the onagers from the cavalier, the bombard cannons acting as the siege unit. That is a slow-moving army, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the game. Slow-moving armies in this map can dominate if they actually take the engagement at this part of the map. So if you have a slow-moving civilization, then you want to take this path into the opponent's base, pretty much try to corner him as much as possible, because once, like, you don't want your opponent to be able to spread out and just raid you to death with faster units. What you want is hammer your way through here in the middle. That is the way that you should be playing strong but slow armies like Italian one. In here, I think that one decision over there from SongSong could have changed the entire game, because he had the army to just hammer his way through here, yet he decided otherwise, and that's going to potentially cause him to lose this game in what was one of the better games, in fact one of the best games I have seen in this series, and overall in the first round of qualifiers so far. So with that, SongSong wins game SongSong loses game number 2, AJ wins, and that means that we're actually going to the first home map of SongSong, which is either Gold Rush or Hideout. So let me jump into the next game over here. And we're going to Gold Rush. So jumping into the next game, we will have to reconnect Capture Age, but we'll have SongSong playing as Berbers in blue on the right side of the map. No, he's actually yellow. Okay, that's a great start for this game. So SongSong in yellow as Berbers on the right, and on the north it's going to be Tatars for AngelinaJolie in a blue. Both of these civilizations are pretty standard, I would say, for this map. And once again, I kind of have a feeling that I like Berbers a little bit more. They give you a little bit more flexibility. And one thing that you can do with this civ is that either you play scouts and then go for knights and camos, or you can just go for fast castle. And what you can play for is something similar that one we have seen very, very frequently in World Cup 2020, like the 2v2 World Cup, where on Golden Pit, Berbers was one of the most used civilizations, because what you can do is go for a free stable knights play, or in this case you will have to mix in quite a lot of camos because your opponent has camos available. But for the cheap knights and camels, you can actually play with free triple stables, and what you play for is just denying your opponent from all the gold in the middle. And that's the plan. So you play an aggressive gameplay and just pin your opponent inside his own base. That being said, AngelinaJolie has a pretty bad gold mine over here, and this one is even worse. He's got a stone at the back, which is nice, and overall his base is wallable, but his gold mines are awful. This gold mine is much, much better for SongSong, who will just wall himself like this on the left. Stone is also nice for him. And the right side is a little too open, but his gold mine is also much, much better and on that part of the map. Alright, so let's do some speeding through Dark Age over here, because it is very likely going to be a rather passive Dark Age. Both players just pushing there. If I wanted to have something to criticize about the map generation for SongSong, that would be the deer push, which is pretty hard for him. Not really a big deal, but as you see, it's a little bit harder than normal that you have to push it all the way around here. It might be easier to push in this direction, indeed. That's the direction that SongSong is choosing now, but yeah, his lumber camp is going to make it harder as well, and he's going to give up on that push, as AJ loses the scout to the TC of the opponent. That hurts so much, especially against a player like SongSong, because you have no idea what SongSong is planning over here. That's the thing, so you have absolutely no idea what SongSong is planning, as now SongSong loses his scout as well. So the thing is that against an aggressive player like we have seen SongSong being in the first game, I would think that it actually hurts you a lot that you lose your scout at the beginning, because you will just have no information on what he's up to. But it seems like we are going to have one militia bashing down the walls. This probably tried a wolf rush, but at the end of the day, it's probably more about just getting some scouting information. Both players are playing with fast castles here, and it's actually a 27... No, it's 28 plus 2. For SongSong, so it's a pretty late castle age over here, but he's not adding villagers to stone. Now AJ might think that, hey, my opponent went for 28 plus 2, which means that this could be Camel Archer, but it's actually not. It is going to be stable, something that will be spotted by AJ, and now I think we can actually slow the game down, because things are going to start happening. So forward villagers over here by SongSong, almost losing one over here, and AJ is going to open up with archers. It's going to be probably crossbow into cav archer at the end of the day. We have a little bit of a lagging over here, so allow me to restart Capture Age over here so that we will have a little bit better spectating experience. So let me restart Capture Age here. And in the meanwhile, you can actually look at the game itself, so we're not missing anything. So Knight over here will be able to take down one of the crossbows. These crossbows already have Thumbring, and they do have the hill advantage, but they only have fletching on them. Nice market wall from SongSong over there to prevent the crossbows from pushing deeper into his eco, and that's also a beautiful move, using the TC to finish off the crossbow from the opponent over here. And now that Capture Age has restarted, we can actually go back in there and once again experience all the statistics that are given to us in here. Alright, so forward siege drop on this ridge with Scorpions. It seems like SongSong is actually playing relatively passive over here, so it is only single stable, and maybe AngelinaJolie also expected triple stable knights over here. Instead, what we're seeing is a forward TC for SongSong, and he's playing rather passive for the time being. He still will capitalize on the cheaper knights, and the thing is that the cheaper knights plus scorpions at the beginning is going to be superior to the early cav archers and crossbows, because cav archers need a lot of upgrades like bloodlines, husbandry, ballistics. They have thumb ring already, but they are not even having botkin arrow right now, so they're not super amazing, even though the thing is that it currently seems like SongSong isn't really upgrading his knights. In fact, he's getting 0 upgrades in, which makes me wonder if we are going to see a camel archer switch in the long run, which would be definitely viable. Camel archers will just eat cav archers, and that would be more than legitimate, but still he's going to start pushing in here with scorpions and knights. If he's playing with knights over here, I could really justify at least +1 defense, but it's a little tricky because his eco isn't super strong, especially the food eco isn't amazing, and since this knight doesn't have any upgrades on him, not even bloodlines, not even +1 defense, even these crossbows that do not have the attack upgrades, or at least Botkin is just coming in now, with Thumb Ring we'll be able to finish this guy off just in time. Nope. Knight will survive, that was calculated. And what was also calculated for SongSong is that now he's pushing into his opponent's base here with scorpions and mangonels. And the thing is that, as I said, early cav archers are just so weak. And behind this one, it's also worth noting that AJ is playing with 1 TC, whereas SongSong is playing on 2. So SongSong will pull ahead in terms of Voyager count as well. A lot of farming ecos being denied from AJ, as the Knights will try to dive in on the gold mine. Eventually, they will get picked off pretty easily, so I don't think they will kill a lot. In fact, they might even get converted. That is an excellent scenario for AJ. He converted one and they killed the other. And now there is no support for these scorpions. And that means that the knight could just try to pick off all the scorpions as SongSong tries to convert it, but that's going to be a failure. I was expecting something like this to happen if you lose those knights. That's why I wasn't sure if that's actually worth it to go and dive in there, and now SongSong has just mangoed down his own knight here. So the real question is, what direction is SongSong willing to go? Because he's actually playing a pretty aggro play over here with this siege and knight push. However, he wasn't really willing to tech into his knights. He isn't really doing anything in particular to really facilitate this push. So what I can imagine is that indeed this is going to be camel archers in the long run, and right now he just wants to pin his opponent inside his base. So he knows that his opponent is cav archers. I think that's pretty straightforward when you talk about Tatars on this map. So you can prepare for it and you can say, okay, I'm just going to force my opponent to defend here. I'm going to push him with scorpions, rams, mangonels, and that means that he can't move out. I know that he can't move out, so I can start picking stone for himself. For example, he has a TC on the stone, and indeed now the plan is that he will transition to camel archers. One of the reasons why he didn't tech into, that was a nice uphills shot over there from AJ. One of the reasons why he didn't tech into knights is because I firmly believe that what he wants to do is make sure that oh, that's going to be a nice downhills attack. But 3 ends up being a 1-for-1. So what he wants to make sure is that his opponent is pinned within his own base, but doesn't really want to commit a lot of resources to upgrading these units, even though Bloodlines would have been nice anyways, because Bloodlines will affect Camel Archers as well. So it could have been something you consider. And now, it seems like AJ is going to be pushing out here. This may actually be a little too early for SongSong stays. I think he didn't necessarily expect SongSong, at least SongSong didn't expect his opponent to push out over here. Nice mangonel shots over here. Monks working back and forth though, and at the end of the day, I think AJ actually wins this fight pretty decisively. And as I said, SongSong's transition here isn't really ready to Camel Archers, so I really wonder what the original idea was for him, because his units are disgustingly under-upgraded. In fact, one of the reasons why that happens, no, he's a blacksmith. I just don't know why he's not upgrading his units then. He's not making a second stable. But come on, man, get bloodlines or get +1 attack, whatever, just get something. It hurts to see. This feels like low elo legends here. Knights without upgrades. I'm actually going to tell you that story, but like, basically I was teaching a player, like a very beginner player, on how to play Age of Empires, and the first thing was, like, in the first 20 minutes of our discussions, the first thing I said to him was, dude, don't forget the upgrades. Those are extremely important. And this is not what we are seeing from SongSong finally getting +1 defense, but imagine if he had those upgrades a lot earlier. he could have had much, much better fights. Obviously, it's not going to help against the monks, but I just don't understand what the idea here was. Like, he felt like he wants to commit to that push, and that's a 1-for-1 at the end of the day. So, he felt like he wanted to commit to that Castle Age push, but he didn't really get the upgrades, he didn't really decide if he really wants to commit to that, and now AJ wants to drop a castle himself, goes for multiple bracks. Now this could be problematic for AJ though. If he transitions into Pikeman, first of all, Tatar Halberdiers are awful because they are missing even the +2 defense upgrade, so they're extremely exposed to archers. And more importantly, as I said, the ideal composition here for SongSong will be Camel Archers. Now, it remains to be seen if he's actually able to go for those, because right now he still only has 5 on stone, and as I said, I feel like he's disturbingly under-upgrading his army, sort of. Also has 1 knight trapped over here, which can only be freed if you chop through this, or if you actually delete one of the stable or the market, but obviously you don't want to do that. So, even Castle Age Pikemen from AJ aren't fully upgraded, which is a pretty rare thing in this game. Missing the +2 defense upgrade, as you see over here. But more importantly, those will be awful against Camel Archers. So I think that AJ believes that SongSong will just go for full Knight and Camel play. Eventually, that's going to be Camel Archers. Anyways, that's a beautiful castle for AJ. And once again, I just don't know what the game plan is here for SongSong, other than dropping a castle here in the middle, because that's the game plan. He's probably going to buy 100 stone. Indeed, here that comes. That's going to be the highest point on this map, which means that you can actually trap down this castle with a hill advantage, now getting the upgrades for his cavalry. But why did it took so long? There's a 10 villagers lead right now in the favor of SongSong, and my neighbor is also drilling the walls, I think, so apologies if you see any, if you hear any background noises. Anyways, castles will both be up. The question is, where is this game going now? Because I feel like SongSong, with these resources, he might think about, okay, I'm gonna idle my production buildings for a while, and I will try to imp this one. He will try to facilitate a counterattack over here, but AJ has some pretty strong walls up over here already with reinforced houses, so eventually that's not going to be a break-in over there. Only the Lions will lose their lives in this engagement. So the thing is that SongSong now will transition to Camel Archers. He sees the castle of his opponent, and in the meanwhile, AJ sees the other castle as well. So they both know that the opponent has a castle up, and that would mean that AJ also knows that Camel Archers is a likely scenario in this one. Once again, it's a lot of monks coming in here, and that's gonna be 1 knight converted, 2 knights, 3 knights converted. Like, the amount of conversions we had in this game is crazy, and both players are now thinking about buying themselves up to Imperial. AJ is gonna be lagging a little bit behind compared to his opponent going into Imp. But one thing that AngelinaJolie is gonna have for him, though, is that SongSong needs to use that castle to make Camel Archers. That's his ideal unit in late game. And he will also need that castle for traps. Whereas for AngelinaJolie, he can make his primary unit, which would be probably Cav Archer elsewhere as well. So he could just go Cav Archer and traps, and if he takes that castle down, there is going to be no option for SongSong to produce Camel Archers at. And we could get into a very, very similar scenario than what we had in the previous game. Now it looks like AJ will try to loop all the way around, and he will be beaten to Imperial about half a minute or so. SongSong is getting ready to drop another castle over here, which would potentially be good on this hill once again. Alternative would be on this ridge over here, because you want to have 2v1 when it comes to castle fights, so that you outnumber your opponent with trebs. So AJ is also piling up stone for another castle, which should be positioned somewhere around over here on that ridge. And it seems like he's trying to break into the base of SongSong now, knowing that SongSong doesn't really have a lot of stuff against pikemen right now. But SongSong bringing in the cavalry +1/+1 on those. No real upgrades. That's actually interesting. That's a capture age bug, I believe. That's probably converted knight. Yeah, that's the case. In case capture age guys, you're watching this. This is a capture age bug. This is a converted knight that had 120 HP because SongSong had bloodlines on it. But it was converted by a player who wasn't owning bloodlines, so that's why it shows 120 out of 100 HP. Anyways, this is a massive cleanup over here with the support of the camels and the camel archers, And as I said, the second cast is on the way for both players. The slight imperage advantage is huge, by the way, for SongSong. So he needs to start making traps ASAP. Indeed, that's exactly what he's doing. In these situations, this is crucial. And let's see if this castle is going to be delayed a little bit by the Camel Archers. They might. Chemistry coming in fast over here for SongSong. So he could actually bring in a couple of Bombard Cannons as well when the time comes. He also needs to start making traps on the other castle because this is exactly what his opponent is going to do as well. The problem that I see for AJ is that the only way he wins this game is if he takes down these castles. Because otherwise his Halberdiers will just melt to the Camel Archers. Like, Tatar Infantry has one of the worst Pierce Armor. I think it actually is the worst Pierce Armor in the game. They only have the +1 infantry upgrade. I think every other civilization has at least +2. Many are lacking +4, but very, very few civilizations actually lack even +2 defense upgrade for their infantry. Anyways, it is Camel Archers being produced on this cast. That's actually a little bit sloppy, I believe, from SongSong. Here, especially because your opponent is only making pikemen, you just mass traps as fast as possible. Now, one thing that we should really keep in mind is that SongSong has this hill. So he's firing down hills and AJ is firing up hills, which is extremely important. It would be important in normal Civ matchup as well, but it's also very important because AJ is Tatars. If AngelinaJolie would have the upper hand in terms of hill control, he would just devastate this entire thing with the Tatar hill bonus. One castle goes down from AJ. Right now, it is just one trap firing on the other castle from SongSong, so he's going to be able to repair that as he's trying to find a new position for his traps to start trapping on the other castle. The fourth trap comes out, and now the Camel Archers will dive in, attempting to snipe that trebuchet, and that is actually going to happen, or at least it's going to be close to happening. Nope, the trap stays up. Castle obviously will do an awful lot of damage against those Halberdiers that are, as I said, lacking even the +2 defense upgrade, and the other castle is also very, very close to melting here. And with the Halberdiers going down pretty rapidly, now SongSong can just focus on taking down those traps. Bombard Cannons are not coming here from him, but as I said, the only way that AngelinaJolie wins this game is if he takes down those castles, because Tatars don't really have a great answer to Camel Archers, or at least not an easy answer. Like, their Cav Archers die to Camel Archers, their Halberdiers are awful. Like, they pretty much have to go for skirmishers or potentially onagers against them, but obviously, as I said, that's not really something that's easy to do or it's viable, like, in a very, very long game. Especially on a map that has an awful lot of gold. And now, that castle is being trapped by 4 traps over here, even though it's uphill, so it actually is probably gonna go down, because SongSong was out of gold for a moment, and he stopped repairing. I don't think that he saw the repairs being stopped, but that actually is crucial that he lost one castle over there, and that is really necessary for AJ to have any chance in this game. Still, AJ is getting another castle up and he's pushing forward. Is it a deja vu from the previous game? It was the same thing. SongSong had the upper hand. SongSong had the unit composition, SongSong had the positional advantage with the castle position, and now everything seems to be slowly falling apart. History repeats itself or what? Now Kashik is trying to dive into snipe the traps. I still believe that SongSong is leading this game by a considerable margin, especially if I look at the ecos. Once again, we have seen him losing the previous game where I thought he should be dominating it. The town center is going to go down, which is going to allow the Camel Archers to start killing villagers over there as well. And the army numbers are what really scary over here. And even though AJ has the siege, as I said, Skirmisher is not really an easy transition because you need the archer upgrades for them and you also need all the armor upgrades, otherwise they will just die to Camel Archers pretty easily. So Skirmisher actually takes quite a lot of time to tech into an Imperial, whereas the Camel Archers are already out in numbers. As I said, if there was a couple of Bombard Cannons as well from SongSong, he would be dominating his fights even more. And it's free traps versus free traps, no way of telling who is actually having the upper hand in terms of hill control. I have absolutely no idea. But one thing is sure, AngelinaJolie is getting pushed away from the gold, and his skirms are still just having +1 defense, so I would borderline say that the Cav Archers or Camel Archers could actually try taking that fight, even though against Tatars with hill bonus you probably want to avoid that. But eventually AngelinaJolie is going to have some gold control issues in the foreseeable future, and if it's full skirm, you could even make a case for either Janitors from Berbers, because Janitors would melt the Halberdiers and would be decent against the skirms as well, or just like Cav. Here comes a Bombard Cannon to finish things off. AJ has walled up his base completely. which means that, well, the left side is wide open, but the right side is pretty closed, so there's going to be no breaking over there from SongSong, who's piling up stone for another castle, and now wants to take this ridge and actually attack that castle from that position. And now Light Cav will come in. Bombardkin is also there to take down the skirmishers. Previous game, AngelinaJolie's skirmisher micro was extremely outstanding, and we'll see if that's going to be enough for him to come back into this game, but it seems very unlikely. It's 175 pop against 102 population. Little gold control for AJ, who's getting his castle trapped down right now. 92 villagers against 144. That seems like this game is too far gone for AJ to pull back. I have to say that this is sort of a civ advantage here as well for AJ, or for SongSong, because Berbers should indeed have a pretty nice matchup against Tatars, but maybe that's the reason why SongSong brought in Berbers. He seems to be very well prepared for these games. He had a good game plan for Arabia. He also had a very, very good game plan for the second map, Bay, but that fell apart in terms of execution. And for this game, he also had a very, very good game plan. So I am borderline saying that in all three of the games, he was sort of counterpicking his opponent's civilization. If you think about that, Byzantines with the skirm and spear push, that's pretty tough to stop with Vikings that are very, very heavy towards archers. Second game, Genoese crossbows and Italians against Lithuanians, like Genoese crossbow, onager, bombard cannon over there. Then this game with Berbers against Tatars, and Tatars were somewhat predictable for this map, even though it wasn't guaranteed. If you take a look at the civilizations that were left for these players, let me switch over there. So AJ loses Tatars. Britons could have been an option on this map, and that's basically it. You don't play Cumans or Khmer here, so it was either for Britons or for Tatars, and I think Berbers have a pretty decent matchup against both of these civs at the end of the day. Late game Britons should be able to beat Berbers, but like mid game Berbers are pretty nice as well with a knight siege push. So Berbers will be in the hands of SongSong, and now we're going to play the second home map of AngelinaJolie, which is slopes. We have Franks, Indians, Celts left. Technically, any of these civs could be on slopes. And so far, SongSong has been having some very, very smart civilization picks. So, it is not guaranteed it's Indians. Other side, we have Britons, Cumans, Khmer. Could be Britons or could be Khmer, I would think. Khmer would be useful for jumping into houses. That would be a great idea. Something that we haven't seen from players so far, just jumping into the houses with Khmer to protect their villagers on this one. Whereas, as I said, so far, SongSong has sort of been picking unpredictable civilizations, and the tendency seems to continue. That means that we are going to have AngelinaJolie picking Khmer in blue. On the right side, left side is going to be SongSong as Franks in yellow. So as I said, I feel like SongSong was committing a lot of effort towards, becoming unpredictable in this series, and that seems to have worked so far. So Franks, as I said, it's completely viable civilization over here. It's a standard scouts map, so Franks are generally pretty decent in that. But this also means that you're probably gonna play with your berries instead of actually moving out for the shorefish, although that's once again something that isn't guaranteed. We could see SongSong trying to do both. I love the Khmer pick though from AngelinaJolie, very underrated civ for this map. I feel like the reason why we're not seeing Khmer more on this map is because they're just so strong on a map like Hideout. But what it gives you is, first of all, you have a very, very good mid-game food eco with the farm. So once the actual food starts running out, your food eco is going to be crazy. You don't need to go for Brax, you can go for a stable right away for scouts. You can also drop a house here and jump into the house if your fishing eco or hunting eco is actually getting pushed, which is a huge thing. SongSong is lurking for his opponent's base. Previous game, both players lost their scouts town centers. That's not going to happen now for SongSong. And AJ is actually blaming his opponent over here a little bit. Lags. Slow down. Okay, we do frame by frame, and it looks like the board de-aggroes. Alright, the rush is coming in, so it's time to slow down things. Once again, I apologize for sort of speeding through Dark Ages, but as I said, I kind of need to finish all of the round of 64 games before the round of 32 actually starts. Otherwise, it would be kind of stupid if you would be seeing the second round games without knowing the results of the first round. So I'm trying my best to get through all of the games of the round of 64. It's a lot of games, so it's 32 series. And that is actually a weak villager that will be picked off, I believe, by a Drush that it seems like it caught SongSong off guard. He wasn't expecting a Drush here, that's for sure. And he also had a lot of weak villagers moving out to this wood line. I guess these were the original food villagers from the boars. And that means that many of those villagers were very, very low HP. And right now, AngelinaJolie could make a case for just killing that scout with the militias. Nice moves, although the scout withdraws. There's one weak villager over here that could also be killed by AJ. So, in the meanwhile, this Drush definitely caught the SongSong off guard, who also seems to play unpredictable here and wants to go for what seems to be a Man-at-Arms play. I'm not sure if this was the original plan for him, but he seems like he's doing it this way. And honestly, I'm not necessarily a fan of AngelinaJolie going for walls and no food on the outside. The only way I can justify this is if this is a very, very fast Drush FC. That would be a good idea from AJ. It's 26 villagers. Yeah, this is actually a very, very fast Drush FC here with Khmer. Remember, you don't need buildings to go up to the next stage. So the real tricky thing is the food eco. I would have completely justified AJ moving out for a Shorefish because that would have been nice, but I guess he was afraid that he might actually get Drushed himself. And there's going to be the Men-at-Arms for SongSong with archers, potentially towers. The problem that AJ is facing is that even though, yeah, this is not going to be a Drush FC here. It's way too low food count for AJ over there. There's no way that he's going to be able to, especially considering that ideally with Khmer, you just want to click up right away upon hitting Feudal Age. And there comes the tower, there comes archers. The militias over here will actually get no more villager kills. The lady survives at 1 HP. Actually, it was 2, but it is what it is. And these are still Dark Age walls. Dark Age Palisade walls now only have 150 HP, so it's actually pretty easy for Man-at-Arms to get through them. It's not impossible to defend these walls, but it is very possible now for Man-at-Arms to get through these walls. And here comes the tower. AJ is going to see this, and the problem here that he's facing is that he's unable to counter tower. Just starts to pick up gold. There is no way this turns into a fast castle. This is going to turn into a very, very late Drush Archers build. I understand what AJ tried to do, and I assumed one of the reasons why he actually wanted to lame a board for himself is because with the extra food, it would have been a much, much cleaner Drush FC. However, at the end of the day, it is not working out well for him, and he killed one villager from his opponent with the Drush, but that's all he could accomplish. And indeed, he has to go for an archer range over here. He's not close to clicking up the feudal, and the problem is that his opponent already has archers on the way. SongSong will not make any more towers right now, so he's going to settle with one and just send these villagers on gold. So it seems like this will convert into a Man-at-Arms archers push here. AJ is going to have to make a defensive tower on his gold mine to make sure that it is not going to get breached, but this is going to be really tough. Range is up, but the problem is that even if he makes skirms here against the archers, the Man-at-Arms will be there to tank the arrow fire. For now, AngelinaJolie is holding, but he has gone for a lot of farms without horse color. He has a free villager's lead though, truth being told, so 57 seconds of T-Saddle time from SongSong and one villager lost is indeed 3 villagers deficit for him. So technically, AJ is still alright here. In fact, he's very, very close to borderline saying okay, because one thing that SongSong doesn't have is a good food eco right now. So it is only 9 on food for SongSong, just finishing off with the berries, ends up being 5 on food. And Khmer farming is still crazy strong here. So the thing is that it's not impossible for AJ to beat his opponent to Castle Age over here, get a couple of knights out and start taking control over the map. Double layer Palisade walls coming in here to prevent those units from breaking into the base. So far, AJ's defense has been pretty nice, and overall he has been doing an excellent job just defending his base. So for the majority of the cases, like if you remember the Gold Rush game previously, he converted a lot of knights. SongSong had some very inefficient engagements there. The Bay game, where he had that castle hold, overall he has been doing an excellent job. at just slowing down the push of the opponent. And if you think back to the Arabia game, he also did a very nice job over there as well. Lost a couple of villagers, but I think he was borderline close to coming back to that one. And that hurts so much right now for him, because imagine if he actually just attempts to go for a couple of berserks. There is no guarantees it would have worked out, but at least he could have attempted doing that. And the berserks, I think, especially with like 5 berserks and 2 or 3 knights, that's not really a huge investment. That would have absolutely destroyed that army, and suddenly you would have the upper hand in terms of army numbers. And it's not like the villager lead was insurmountable, especially with a strong eco like Vikings. So in that game, we could have seen AJ coming back, to be honest, and that would be 2-1 for him right now. So who knows, maybe giving up on that game before attempting to try and destroy that skirmisher army with a couple of berserks and knights may backfire for him for the outcome of the entire series, because he could also be up 1 game. Obviously, that would have been an uphill's battle, but as we have seen the Bay game, that was an uphill's battle for him as well. Now, the thing is that SongSong is pinning AJ into his own base, and he knows that. So this will be the moment where SongSong could actually send a couple of villagers for a shorefish and a hunt, because he knows that his opponent is actually just camping his own base. And now I think AJ is just going to idle his TC. That's going to be a lot of TC idle time, and that basically renders the villager difference non-existent. SongSong also wants to buy himself up here. He tries to jump into the tower with the villagers, and one villager is going to bite the dust. Archers are coming back, and now the archers here will disengage. And to be honest, AngelinaJolie could actually just send all these units to SongSong's base. There is an overchopped woodland over here that could be hit. Other than that, maybe a couple of farmers could be denied, but that's all. But as I said, AJ is idling his TC quite a lot so that he's able to get up to the next stage. He's missing a market to buy himself up. Goes for a stable though. And if SongSong sees that, he should know that, hey, my opponent is probably going into Castle Age. And in the meanwhile, AJ will try pushing into the food eco of his opponent. The archer range will spot the archers. SongSong reacts immediately and jumps into the town center, and he also has this army trailing over here. It is going to be tricky, because if these archers are also upgraded to crossbows, I feel like the early knights of AJ isn't going to be enough. And as I said, SongSong isn't very far away from Castle Age himself, and he will just, moving close, take this fight, he will just jump into the face of the skirms, because the skirms have a minimum range. So what you want here is just be close to the skirmishers, and you are gonna be able to clean them up. Wasn't perfect for SongSong, but it does the job. And it's going to be double stable knights. Bloodlines is coming in right now for AJ. He does have a blacksmith, so now he can actually think about, okay, I can get scareboarding as well. In the meanwhile, I would think that this is going to be crossbows at the beginning from SongSong, although it's going to be knight support as well for him. But for 10 archers, it's actually more. Oh no, it's 10 archers. So 10 archers is actually worth upgrading to crossbows, to be honest, over here. At least crossbows, even if you don't get botkin. But the extra firepower that you could get from those crossbows, the chance to snipe the monks is huge. So if it turns into a full-on knight versus knight war, monks will be a huge part of the equation. And being able to have a couple of crossbows that can pick off monks is extremely helpful. And they're much better at picking off monks than crossbows are, or than archers are. The 1 extra range would help so much. So archers have 4 base range, crossbows have 5, and you could say, well, it's the same thing as getting Botkin arrow, but Botkin arrow is more expensive. So if you don't really want to commit to the archers, but still want to use them as a reasonable auxiliary force, then the crossbow upgrade here is completely justifiable, even if you don't get Botkin for yourself. Anyways, we will have double stables over here for SongSong, same for AJ, who's getting +2 defense in it. Truth being told, he's still in a good spot here, despite the very wacky start. As he's going to send out his knights, he will delete the Palisades, it's a nice move, and we'll go for a tower. If that tower goes down, I think he's going to be able to kill 3 villagers over here, and indeed, here comes crossbow, and as I said, no botkin, but simply crossbow. There's botkin even for SongSong, so he wants to continue with a couple of crossbows over here, but eventually, as I said, monks will be mixed in, and the same thing should happen as well. SongSong, nice move over there on the right side, look at that. He even has the heal for these crossbows, and if those crossbows would actually focus on the villagers, they would be able to pick off a couple. One villager also buys dust here for AJ. Now needs to take this fight with all the knights he has, and otherwise he could be in trouble. Nice move to split away, the weak knight, you can actually heal that up later on. And that's exactly what AJ needs to do, pull this weak knight as well. And he tries to, but that's not going to happen. But still, those knights are fighting down hills, and as I said, the early knights are just much better than early crossbows. It looks like AJ will actually pull villagers, take that tower down, which makes sense because he wants to make sure that all his knights are actually fighting units over here. But in the meanwhile, villagers are going down over here from AJ. Loses his second villager only in the game, by the way. So the thing is that despite the scary look of the feudal age push from SongSong, AngelinaJolie only lost 3 villagers this entire game. 2 of them actually happened just in the last couple of moments. And it looks like this knight is just gonna get converted very easily. Now you have to kind of dive in on the monks though, because you already lost the knight to conversion, might as well kill the monks. And a very quick conversion, not very quack, I'm not a duck, but it's a very quick conversion from SongSong over there. Did I mention that monks will have an extremely important effect on this game? And that's not something that AJ has over here. Those conversions came in clutch, especially in all the numbers. It actually does matter if it's 5 knights against 3 or 4 versus 4, for example. So in terms of upgrades, we have +1/+1 for SongSong does have heavy plow, but no double bida or no boso. Other side, we do have boso but no heavy plow, and +1/+2. So those are slightly better knights overall. I wish I knew why capture rate was lagging this much. Hopefully it's not really disturbing. Anyways, that's still quite a lot of knights over here, so it's 5 knights versus 8, but AJ needs to get some monks out on the field. He does have one already. The crossbows here are still denying this wood line, and they could even pick off a couple of villagers on the stone here, so that is further annoyance for AJ. And his opponent is booming on 3 TCs over here. Whereas AJ will be only playing on 2 TCs, but one of them is on a wood line, and the third one is just coming in on that gold mine on the front. So, it's not that bad right now for AJ. In fact, he does have the score lead, even though just by a very narrow margin. But still, a score lead is a score lead, right? So, once again, knights taking an engagement over here, but where is the monks at from AJ? That's what I'm asking. Now it's 8 knights versus 8 knights, and I'm feeling like AJ is losing way too many knights to conversions here. Once again, I think that we will just restart capture H here to sort of avoid the lags. So once again, apologies for that. I'm just gonna restart capture H here so that you guys have a, you know, perfect spectator experience and whatnot. Alright, so it is back on track, and we can get going with the game. So, as things stand, we have an absolutely even villager count for the 2 players over here, and behind this one, we have 10 knights for SongSong, 10 knights for AJ as well. And we also got a couple of monks out on the field, in fact 3 monks and 2 monks respective for 2 players. And the thing is that it seems like AJ is going to start making a barrack, so I think that it's going to be a mixture of pikemen and cavalry now for him. And I also like the fact that he has expanded towards this wood line over here on the outside. In the meanwhile, for SongSong, he's gonna have less reliable and less consistent wood income. And also worth noting that the Khmer farming eco is actually much stronger than the Frankish farming eco, even though having heavy plow helps quite a bit for a Franks, but still, Khmer eco is going to be much better than the Frankish eco over here. So if this is a very passive game like we're seeing right now, then eventually AngelinaJolie is just going to be able to outboom his opponent. And indeed, here comes the pikeman from AJ. So, in the meanwhile, as I said, I feel like I love how AJ is spreading out his base a lot more, sending villagers to stone, which means that he will want the defensive castle at some point. It's 3 monks versus 4. This is going to be a crucial engagement. Knight numbers, monk numbers are very close, so conversions will play an extremely huge role in this one. And the SongSong is bringing in the monks. That is going to be less than perfect. Now pikeman is in. Monks will disengage. And for now, this is going to remain peaceful. SongSong is also heavy on stone, so I wonder if he wants a castle drop, especially with Franks. he's got a cheaper castle, he could drop a castle very soon. And one thing that we shouldn't underestimate is that, as I mentioned this multiple times on my stream, Franks are one of the best cavalry civilizations when it comes to reacting to a pikeman transition. Many cavalry civs struggle against the pikeman transition because adding your own archers takes quite a lot of time, same for skirmishers, but Franks have a pretty easy transition to throwing axemen. They can get a castle up for cheap, and they can train throwing axemen really fast over here, and I think that's going to be the case as well for SongSong. He will probably tie a castle over there to protect that gold and stone. And AJ will probably get a castle up himself, some around over here, or at least that's going to be the plan. Food ecos, gold ecos are pretty close, and it seems like AJ will actually get a couple of upgrades for the pikemen. Goes for double barracks pikeman production at the end of the day. But as I said, the pikemen here will be a very, very good unit for him. Or against the save that is not Franks. Against Franks, I feel like throwing X-Men should be able to devastate that. And the other thing is the lack of mobility that you might actually encounter, as it seems like SongSong is moving all his knights to the base of AJ over here. AJ having this outpost over here will spot that, and he will move his entire army over there. Once again, the pikemen will be a little too slow catching up because they're a slow unit overall. As it seems like AJ will try to intercept that army and get some damage done on it, but now that the castle is up, he is just going to say, okay, nope, that's not gonna happen. AJ could drop a castle somewhere around over here, which would protect this part of his eco. As you have, I think, one conversion over there from SongSong. Now AJ will also try getting a couple of conversions, and he will get none. So a castle over here would be pretty nice, but look at that! An imp coming in here from SongSong. Imperial Age and throwing axemen. Did I mention that Franks have a very, very good and easy transition into a unit that actually deals with pikemen? The throwing axemen will benefit from the attack upgrades that you have gotten for your knights, so you only need the infantry upgrade. They actually train pretty fast on rather cheap castles, and I would think that the second castle is going to come in here or here by SongSong. So two castles coming up. Project Belgium. It's not Project Belgium. It's AJ. I apologize once again. The two players are so similar. So AJ is going to be getting that castle up as well himself. Goes to Imperial. He's behind by about 20 seconds, but that's not really a big of a deal. He's trying to delay the other castle by trying to convert a couple of villagers, but I think both castles will go up. The problem that AJ will be facing is that he's going to be 1 against 2 when it comes to castles, so a threat production will be on the side of his opponent over here, and this castle doesn't have the range to actually reach these villagers, so both castles will go up. I would have loved to see AJ sending out a couple of villagers for the hunt and the short fish over here, because he's got the base over here, might as well take that. He's actually rolling in the golds of his opponent, so he's really preparing for a late game scenario over here, and truth being told, there isn't really a lot of gold left for SongSong other than the ones in the middle. Obviously, as long as SongSong has these two castles here, he's going to have enough gold to play with, but if this game goes very, very late, then this indeed could be a concern for SongSong. Anyways, a little bit of a sloppy micro over there from AJ. The pikemen and the knights flood out as they're trying to get closer to that castle. This knight may actually go converted, although SongSong has to be careful because the castle might kill his monks. Indeed, that's very, very sloppy from SongSong. Holy smokes. That was awful. He's going to save all but 1 monks. But now, the problem, as I said, that AJ is facing is that he is going to be up against 2 trebs, or 2 castles worth of trebs. That's also a very, very late trap from him. Over here, tries to go for Cavalier though. And Cavalier would still stomp the throwing axeman, that's the thing. And it's +1/+2 against +1/+1 over here. I think he's trying to squeeze in +4 defense as well. And the thing is that with those Cavalier, you could actually try and snipe the trebs. Nice move over there from SongSong, actually walling up those trebs over there. So it's much harder for AJ to take them down. And the thing is that as long as those castles stand, AJ is going to have a tough time. And I feel like his own castle is going to melt really fast over here. He might actually try getting another castle up over here. Light Cav being teched into by AJ. Cavalier is on the way as well. But no +4 defense, nor like +2 attack or so. So those... yeah, it's gonna be Cavalier, but those knights will be good enough to hold against them until the throwing axemen numbers increase. Still, 63 army against 42. AJ is gonna have a pretty huge horde of cavalry over here. Cavalier is just in. and he could actually intercept all those throwing X-Men. Indeed, that's actually an excellent fight for AJ. Gets a good surround on the X-Men. The castle, I think, went down from him. Indeed, that is the case. But the Cavalry are actually getting a very, very good surround over here. Throwing X-Men, elite upgrade coming in here for SongSong. He also needs Birded Axe for his units over here, and now he is setting up traps, but here come the knights from SongSong, and I feel like the pikemen are just a little bit too off in terms of positioning to protect the traps. Yeah, indeed, I think those traps are dead. There will be a couple of knights dead here, but I think the traps will go down, and that is going to be a crucial moment in this fight, I believe, because there is no more traps available for AJ. He doesn't have more castles, so all he could, well, he cannot do anything, to be honest with that. Khmer don't have bombard cannons, so losing that castle and losing those traps will mean that these castles will stay up for SongSong. He's gonna melt halberdiers here, and the problem is that even though AngelinaJolie has a strong army that is capable of raiding the opponent, how is he going to stop a direct push like this? Especially because Franks have so cheap castles, you can just start spamming castles in the face of AJ, and now knights are also inside his eco. Halberdier is cleaning up most of it, but now SongSong has a 20 villagers lead, and AJ had very, very good moments in this series. I don't know the exact seedings of the players, but this was one of the closest series of the entire first round of qualifiers. But SongSong edges out a victory here, I believe, because now everything seems to be falling apart for AJ. Unless these Cavalier can do insane damage to the eco of SongSong, which might not be impossible. But the problem is that even if they do a lot of damage, how do you stop this one? And as I said, these guys don't even have Birded Axe. Or do they? I think they now have Birded Axe as well. No, it can be. Nah, no, they don't have Birded Axe yet. So that's something that SongSong forgot about. Now, AJ is going to do quite a lot of raiding over here. The question is how many villagers he's going to kill, because it's going to be a lot of idle time for SongSong, and he's losing villagers. The problem is that AJ already lost villagers as well, and AJ is losing his entire army here. I think this raid is doing a lot of damage, but not enough damage to compensate AJ for losing the front of his base. And after this game, you really have to question if he should have tried playing for a couple of Berserks and Knights in the Arabia game, maybe play a little longer, because that could have been a game that I think was winnable. In fact, all of the games were very winnable for AJ, so one of the closest series over here. And when you just look at the names of these two players, they're probably not more of the hyped up players. However, both of these players were performing extremely good in this series. And I think this actually was one of the closest series out there. SongSong, the Nomad expert, is going to get into the next round, but AJ has nothing to be shy about, to be honest. I think he played very, very good in this one. Small details decided things, like for example, these traps being sniped. If those pikemen were closer, the knights don't snipe the traps, this castle goes down most likely, and that limits the amount of throwing axemen that SongSong is able to do, to a point where you could have even justified taking a fight against them, and then you probably would have had... I would think that traps from this hill might be able to range this castle, so you could have tried continuing to push and just take down the castles and play for the fact that your opponent requires castles to produce his unit, whereas you can actually keep producing units on your stables. So minor details mattered in all of the games, I think. Including the Bay game that AJ has won. In that case, I feel like SongSong's one bad decision to move his army and separate his army into pieces cost him a lot. But overall, SongSong edges out a victory here. Congrats to him. He's getting to the next round of the event, and AngelinaJolie exits. So thank you so much if you were watching this on YouTube. Well, you were definitely watching this on YouTube because I wasn't casting this on Twitch. And I am happy to report that I am almost done with all of the Round of 64 games. Round of 32 has already started. But whatever series happened over there, I casted that live on Twitch. And I will upload those as well to YouTube. I will probably not wait until all the Round of 64s are uploaded. But expect a couple of Round of 32, so second round games, to drop before all of the Hidden Cup qualifiers are finished from the first round. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I am going to see you next time.